Hello friends, Kip Teitsort here with Chronicles of a Culture Changer from DT4EMS. I want to say thank you so much again for taking the time to listen to what we have to say about trying to keep providers safe. I really can't tell you how much it means to me that you actually take the time to watch these things because we're finally getting some traction and making some real improvements in safety for both in-hospital and pre-hospital staff. So with that, let me move on this morning because what I'd like to talk to you about is the difference between a tactic and a technique. A technique is something that you use because you've made a lot of mistakes. A technique is something that you use because you found yourself so deep into a problem that you now have to do something physical to escape. Well, tactics are what would keep you from ever having to use a technique, hopefully. Now, again, nothing is 100%. There's no technique, there's no tool, there's no tactic that's 100%. However, certain tactics give us better options or better opportunities to prevent us from ever having to use a technique in self-defense. So let's talk about some tactics first. You already do this, believe it or not, for most situations. You just may not really think about the fact that you're using it. In other words, you're using pre-arrival prompts in hospital or pre-hospital. If you've been dispatched or you're given a patient report from someone in triage, you're already running through things in your head. What do I need to do next? What kind of a call is it? How am I going to get in there? What should I be doing in preparation for treatment and stuff like that? What I'm going to ask you to do is to start doing a little bit of that for you. Don't have to always just do it for everybody else. Everything that we do, patient satisfaction, patient safety, blah, 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 everything is about the patient safety, which is good, I agree. But let's not forget our provider safety. That's who has to come number one. Our nurses are number one, our paramedics are number one, our firefighters are number one, we are number one, and then we put those other people, in order, because we can't be any good for anybody else if we're not taking care of ourselves. So here we go. First thing, I want you to start reviewing the information that you're given, whether it be dispatch or be information given from a triage nurse. Start reviewing that information, and immediately the things start thinking about, what other resources do I need? Does this sound like something that I can handle myself? There you go. So you're just doing a simple review like you already do for every other call. Start thinking about, is it one of the 6 Ds? If you need to follow up with the 6 Ds, they're on the website. You can go and see what they are. We like to say that if you're dealing with one of the 6 Ds, that you usually have either law enforcement present or security present if possible. Now, the next thing is, if you're heading to an area and your brain starts sending off these little signals that something just isn't 100% with this, do you need to stage? And if so, where? Because staging distance is obviously determined by the threat. Whether it be one house down, whether it be 2 blocks over, whether it be a mile away. Distance is always determined, based upon the threat. Then, if there is no staging really that's needed, where do you park if you're arriving at a scene? So we're talking pre-hospital for just a minute. So where do you park and how do you park? Those things can really help you if all of a sudden you need to escape quickly. So somebody said it not too long ago, and I heard it, and I love the way they said it. They said they would always tell the EMT student or paramedic student that they were precepting. They would say, I always tell them to point the nose of the ambulance or the rescue unit towards the hospital. And I thought, wow, what a brilliant idea, because that's going to keep you from nosing up into someone's driveway. Now, once you've done that, so let's say we've got all the way to this piece, another little safety tactic after parking would be always paying attention for cover and concealment. And you need to think about those things. We've got a whole other blog post on cover and concealment. You can look for that. But, concealment simply hides you, like leaves or bushes or a shadow, where cover actually offers you some form of protection. Now, things like the engine block, the wheel of an ambulance, the tank of a tanker, now that obviously if it's a water tanker is what we're talking about, a fire hydrant, a thick tree, concrete walls. These are things that would offer some form of cover should you take fire as soon as arriving at a scene. But of course, nobody's ever shot up a provider at the moment they got on scene. But moving on past that. So where do you stand out when you knock at a door? So now you've made it using your cover and concealment, those things are in your mind, everything is still cool, and you make it to a door. Where do you stand at when you knock at a door? We're going to ask you to start standing at the side of the door jamb with the doorknob, and you knock and announce who you are so that you're not confused with law enforcement when we're making that scene. Same thing goes if you're in hospital. If you pause for just a moment, you announce yourself, you're not going to surprise anybody or be surprised yourself, because of course no one will be doing anything in hospital that they shouldn't be doing that would change the dynamics of a situation if they were captured doing something or perceived being captured by a staff member. Well, we want you to stand at the side of that door knob, particularly at residences that are pre-hospital, because with the way the door jamb is, that's going to offer you at least a little bit more protection. You're not going to stand in front of the center of the door. Plus, when that person opens the door to a residence, you're able to see inside before they can really see you. So again, it's just a tactic, not necessarily a technique. So now, once you've gone into a house, we're going to start asking you to pause at 6 to 8 feet and use the assessment L. Again, that's on our website. You can see what we're talking about there. That buys you a moment in time to introduce yourself, to obtain consent, which is what we need in medicine. Because how many people do we really, let's be serious, how many people do you really need to run up and touch the moment you meet them? Whether it be to get the vital signs, to get the skin tone. You don't have to run up and touch everyone. So buy yourself a moment in time to process mentally, hey, this is a patient, or is this somebody that doesn't want to be my patient? So we stop at the 6 to 8 feet, buys us a moment in time. We do that from the surveying stance. Again, it's on our website. You can see the stance and assessment L. And you're obtaining your consent. The next thing would be, truthfully, the best safety tactic that I can share with you is absolutely fantastic customer service. We want to get back neutrality. If we start acting like we aren't the police, if we start acting like we're there because we're here to help someone, and if they don't want our care, we back away. Guys, if we obtain that neutrality, if we get that neutrality back, I think that the public will start treating us differently again. So this was a real quick way to summarize several of the safety tactics that can be used. But there are, of course, millions of techniques depending upon which you want to train, and we've limited some down to what we believe works more often than not to escape the violent encounter. But if you use safety tactics, you're less likely to ever have to use a technique because you were doing everything based upon great customer service, and then you are number one. You are number one, and nobody can argue that fact. Now, if you are a soldier or a person that has a role where you've signed away that right, where you're supposed to be, where you have to go into that danger, then that's a little bit different. But even then, soldiers use tactics, police officers use tactics to stay as safe as possible in any type of a dangerous situation. So as a pre-hospital care provider, your employer, or as an emergency room nurse, your employer will not ask you to do anything unless you can do so safely. For whatever reason, violence has slipped under the radar, and we've been doing things that are really getting us in trouble. So think about some of these tactics, and again, if you'll use them on the cool, calm, easy calls, if something bad happens where you're caught by surprise, you'll automatically be jumping into a tactic, and your brain won't be spinning circles, and you won't freeze. You won't get that deer in the headlight look and stop. We want you to be moving. Again, be a system of movement, not a system of moves. Anyway, with that, tactics over techniques, and I'm Kip Teitsort, Chronicles of a Culture Changer. If you believe in what we're doing, please tell people about us, like and share these posts, and we will talk to you soon.